So forecasting a little bit of the future in comics, it's a moving target, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Marvel and kind of really reading between the lines, trying to see what's going on. A number of different articles are out right now trying to predict what they can do. I think the common sense answer is the most accurate one. Let's get into that. Hey everybody, this is Perch. This is kind of in that reading between the lines way of looking at things. And Marvel in particular is in an interesting spot. So just to kind of catch up how it looks like from the outside, then I'll talk a little bit about how what we're hearing on the inside, and then make my predictions. From the outside, Marvel was slower to react, to put it mildly, to the COVID situation. They basically went with a shutdown. They're back shipping comics now, but in a very delayed, protracted way. They're doing every other week. It's not at all happening on a regular basis, and so they've been very sluggish in terms of getting things moving again. Um, and in a lot of cases, what you're seeing with Marvel is that really the world doesn't begin to look solid again for them until late July, August. That's when they're really moving Empire, this long-awaited spinoff, event series, and all the spinoffs are kind of going again. We get Ten of Swords coming in about a month after that, and it's just been a delayed world. Now, Disney in general, their parent company, has had struggles, with the parks having to shut, and now they're slowly starting to try and reopen again, although with recent spikes in Florida, it's unclear exactly how that's all going to work and what kind of attendance is going to be. They've been bleeding cash. So a lot of interesting pieces there. Now, before all this was going on, there was a sense of Marvel was still shipping a lot. They were flooding the shelves, but it didn't feel like their part of the comic industry was going amazing. It just felt like they were kind of almost treading water. They had some successes. The Immortal Hulk certainly has been a success. Donny Cates' Venom book, certainly some of the X-Men titles, but the kind of excitement that came in 2019 was starting to have some question marks as we moved into 2020. So where exactly do things sit? So that's kind of from the outside outlook. From the inside, there has been concern. I've talked to several people now at Marvel who are definitely concerned about what the future will hold. There's been kind of a wait and see attitude. There's a feeling in the air that some axes are going to drop. Remember, we had Kevin Feige come and take over to the comics division. As part of that, we didn't see a bunch of executive management shifts. A lot of people believe that we'd see Joe Quesada move out, or Tom Brevoort, some of these people. We'd see some of these bigger names start to move on, but that didn't happen. And in many cases, COVID did an interesting thing to people's ability to kind of shift and change jobs. I think in the comic industry, there it wasn't as easy as other, but there's this belief that if a door shuts in one company, you can go over to the other. But what we've seen is DC is almost kind of closing fences to do their thing. And a lot of the indies no longer have the money to maybe bring in a big name. So it's maybe not as easy to move on for your job as some people thought a year ago. There is some concern about the line and about what's being published, and from what I hear, budgets are being squeezed more at the editorial level around who you can hire, and it's getting a little bit tenser about what's going on. And like I said, there's this feeling that there's going to be some real cleaning of house that's occurring. That's what's on that's the worry people have. I have no proof that that's going to happen. That's just what people have told me. They feel it's inevitable at this point. So all that said, where does Marvel sit? Well, here's some interesting little tidbits to kind of pull out. We know we have Empire's event that's about to start. We have Outlawed that's really been deprioritized and kind of put back into the different titles, but it's that is really going kind of quiet. Ten of Swords is still coming out in the X-Men line, and over on the Avengers side, they're building up to a couple of the bigger pieces, but the whole Jason Aaron kind of helming of the Avengers book has not been as huge as I think Marvel expected it to be. Meanwhile, Donny Cates and Venom is going very well, and there's still this belief that Marvel can do something with space and cosmic. And part of this is because that there's a belief, at least with Disney, that that's some synergy. They really want to do things in space. There's an opportunity there. There could be a lot of reasons why, but they keep pushing kind of Al Ewing into Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're a conclusion to Empire is supposed to be a new space age for the Marvel Universe, so more tipping into its cosmic end. Now, Marvel has done this before. I've actually, in the last 20 years, we've had cosmic kind of resurgences within Marvel twice. And both times they kind of get a few good books going, but it really doesn't become the, Marvel's version of Star Wars that I think some people expect it to be or want it to be. It's just, they do some cosmic books, they launch for a little while, and then they kind of fizzle out. And I'm not sure anything is different this time. We know that we're getting this return of Null or the arrival of Null that is going to cross over with Venom and with Avengers. We know that that's coming. We know also that Marvel seems to be slowly shuffling around a lot of the books to core versions of the characters. We see it with Amazing Spider-Man last year. We're seeing it with Iron Man, where the new creative team is really promising to go back to a classic take. We know that the Ta-Nehisi Coates Captain America is coming to an end, and we're going to get a quote-unquote classic take on that. I've heard that we're getting a new Black Panther title. It's supposed to give more of an adventure kind of classic, really tying into the movie take of Black Panther, less politics, less sending Black Panther into space, and more just kind of solid, almost James Bond meets Black Panther is what I've heard. And Fantastic Four is another book that's kind of there is a belief that Disney's going to want to start doing things to that movie property and that they need to get that going. So Marvel is definitely moving to a more classic role. And it's funny because I started to do this. I had this on my notes of a video to do, and then I saw some articles been posted. There was some level of editorial conference call or some planning that set up, and kind of the mandate is classic characters, less experiments, more kind of very, very solid books, and just making sure that we're leading with our best foot. Part of this is a response to DC. There is that belief that DC comes out of death metal with a more clear universe, and so there's that almost wanting to fend that off. If Marvel's nothing else, they are a fast follower as opposed to a leader in a lot of cases around storylines. So you're seeing all these things come together. I think that we will see a trimming of the line. I think we are going to see a lot of every classic character that they have will have a core book and a core pitch. And I think you're going to see a lot more of less experimental talky kind of stories and more kind of bare bones adventures. Ultimately, I think, again, personal prediction time, I think they're going to be more shallow adventures. You're going to see kind of a classic story of Iron Man against a villain that is, classic to Iron Man. And there'll be a 6-issue to 12-issue arc, and they'll do that kind of battle. And then it won't have these kind of daring, long-lasting effects. Part of what we knew from the 2000 to 2005 era of comics is that there were a bunch of big bets taken by people like Mark Millar and others, where it changed the status quo forever. But it was shocking, and it was different, and it was a good antidote to what came out of the late 90s, which was very status quo kind of comics. And that it worked. It sold very well. But chances are that's not going to, they're going to kind of do a 180 on that and go back to just some classic, almost forgettable, but hopefully good stories that fit these characters. So I think that's going to definitely happen. I think that you're going to see, like I said, I think you're going to see a big management shakeup out of Marvel. I think that is inevitable. I believe that will happen within the next 6 months. And then I think you're going to see some fan service, if you will. I think we're going to see the Spider-Man Mary Jane thing. I don't think we're going to get the rug swept out from under us. I think that you're going to see the Avengers kind of, morph a little bit to be more of a classic team. I think you're just going to see a couple things, almost a surrender, if you will, back to what may be the core version of the Marvel Universe. And I think some people will be happy with that, but at the same time, I think that surrender will come with fairly by-the-numbers stories. Kind of like what you see out of Marvel Adventures. You're going to see stories that come, they have an adventure, they're over. You're going to see less desire to do daring kind of big status quo shifts of characters. And in many cases, I'll take a step further backward and say, if you are trying to have better synergy with Disney and you're thinking about the movie business and the rides and everything else, and you're going to want recognizable, easy entry, easy exit stories. And I think that's definitely what we're going to get. feel like I had one more prediction in there that I meant to bring up and now have forgotten. I don't know. I was looking at the various release dates and kind of the numbers and some of what we're seeing coming up, and there's just a couple odd pieces there around creators who are coming on and going, and the timing of certain books that make me think that there's just, you can kind of start to read the kind of the background of what's going on, just by paying very, very close attention to what's being solicited and what's being going. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what all happens. But that's what I think. I think we're headed for a classic slash dry version of the Marvel Universe in the months to come, and we'll see how it all rolls out. Anyway, what do you think is going to happen? Leave your predictions in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.